Welcome again, everyone. Welcome back to the reading the book study of Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, Stepping into the Secrets of the Wealthy. This is a book that was co-authored and authored by Chris Noggle and Brent Kessler, who are part of the Money Multiplier team. You can go to the moneymultiplier.com site and learn all about the company, of which I'm happy to say I'm part of. So you could scroll down, look for a team member, you'll find me there. This is all about the infinite banking concept. The infinite banking concept was what it is, a concept, right? A strategy created. Well, the strategy wasn't created, but this book was, right? Becoming Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash. This is a 5th edition. I do have the 1st edition dating back to, I think, 1988. Being in the field for 35 plus years, I remember when these things were created. It's amazing I can remember them. So what we seek to do is just continue to read through this book and see if we can practice the principles that are interwoven throughout, and how you could change your financial destiny by really changing one thing in your life. And that's what happens with money at step number 1. So we are right now going to continue to move through. We've already took care of the first 25 pages. We are now going to start with the mission here on page 25. Now I'll go back to what the story was, because this is really a story about Chris Noggle and Brent Kessler. So Brent Kessler was a practicing chiropractor who had many offices throughout the Kansas City area and racked up over $900,000 of debt, not just from the chiropractic office practices, but from having a plane and a boat and everything else that was needed to be financed. So if you're interested in finance or how to use leverage to have it become a favorable asset on your balance sheet, this is the way to do it. Chris Noggle had a snowboarding business out of Buffalo, New York. He still resides there. And in addition to that, he was an entrepreneur, found his way onto HGTV along with his wife, Narissa. So the story is written from their perspective, and we're just going to read along with them, okay? So let me begin here. Hopefully everybody could see the screen pretty clearly. So you didn't know the truth about money because your parents and teachers didn't know the truth. Today, things change. Today, you learn how money really works. Earlier this month, Brent was flying back from Greenville, South Carolina to Lake of the Ozarks in Camdenton, Missouri. It was nearly noon when he landed his plane, and John, a longtime airport attendee, greeted him at the airport. On that particular day, John opened up a deeper conversation than they had shared during their previous encounters. He began asking Brent about his business and the stuff that he does. When somebody asks Brent about his role, his answer is always the same. He says, I teach people how to build wealth through their own debts and expenses that they already have. Pardon me. It's almost verbatim what R. Nelson Nash used to say. How would you like to have a way to get all of the money back you've ever paid for every debt and expense you've ever had as you continue to build your wealth? For example, John, the car that you bought, you only bought it in one of 3 ways. You paid cash for it, the bank financed it, or you leased it, right? Because I think you're an honest guy and you didn't steal the car, you had to give money to the car dealer. The car dealer gave you the car and everybody walked away happy. The transaction was done. But what if I could show you a way to not only get the car, to buy it exactly the way you did, but also get all of the money back that you paid for the car? John said that he wished he had known Brent earlier so he could have helped him with his money. He was in his 70s and trying to find his way back to retirement after financial hardship. A few years back, he was living in Olathe, Kansas, and had retired after years of military service. He and his wife had $400,000 at the time, and they surrendered it all to the local investment guy. There was a room at the bank where John had been banking for years. It was where people went to see this investment guy. He had decided to go in because his friends who banked with did the same thing. His neighbors did. The guy he played cards with did it, and the guy he walked his dog with did it. So he figured that if everyone else was doing it, it had to be good. Since he wasn't overly financially savvy, he went with the crowd and did what everyone else was doing. Now, I'd like to just take a brief pause there and just reflect on that a minute, because it does seem somewhat true that we seem to follow the pack, right? We seem to follow the herd. And sometimes that could be a very detrimental position and step to take, because those people may not be getting their information correctly and from the right place. So it exacerbates the problem. We need to be clear-headed and clear-thinking before we make any decisions with attaching ourselves to someone or some idea. Let's continue on here. I went in the room, and before I knew it, I'd given complete control of my $400,000 to the banker. I didn't really look into it. And when I didn't hear from him for a while, I just figured everything was going good. Then, all of a sudden, I got a call one day. It was the investment guy. He said, "Hey, John, I've got some bad news for you. All of your money is gone." When John asked the banker where his money was, the only answer he got was, "It's complicated." Everything John owned was gone, and the bank was no longer in business. Another brief pause, if I can. It seems somewhat impossible that we would place all of our hard work, our lifelong work that we do, and be compensated for it. It's money can be very scarce at times, and to place it in places where we don't have control over the company or the bank or the institution, and we don't feel secure about that, we're taking a big risk. Banks have closed in the past. I've witnessed it, and I've seen people lose their money from having it in a bank or in bad investments. Continuing on, Brent's stomach turned as he sat with John. He wanted to know more, but didn't want to pry. Meeting John made Brent think about what we do and how we sometimes don't really think about our money. We don't question handing over full control to somebody else simply because they have a suit on and they look and smell good, and all of our neighbors are dealing with them. As a society, we've been taught to put our money into stocks, bonds, mutual funds, qualified plans such as IRAs and 401ks. In other words, we're told to give away the control of our money to someone else to let them play around with it. We figure that it's going to be okay until it isn't. We've also been told that we have to go to school, study hard, get good grades, and turn our future over to a company, or be willing to start at the bottom and work our way up. In Money, Master the Game, 7 Simple Steps to Financial Freedom, a book committed to setting people up so they have an income for life without ever having to work again, Tony Robbins says, "We're not about to earn our way to wealth." That's a mistake millions of Americans make. We think that if we work harder, smarter, longer, we'll achieve our financial dreams. But our paycheck alone, no matter how big, isn't the answer. Now, many of you have worked incredibly hard, paid your fair share to the government, put your money in the banks, and moved throughout your life, yet You're nowhere near where you want to be financially. You've attempted to do what your wealthier neighbors have done, perhaps, and you aren't even close to being financially free. For too long, we've been giving up control of our finances and unnecessarily assuming additional risk. In order to move into becoming our own bank and living like the wealthy, we need to begin by changing two things: how we think about money and how we approach our spending and saving. At the end of the fiscal year 2018, the total federal debt in the United States was $21.6 trillion. That's the highest the debt has ever been. Well, looking back now, we know it's 32 trillion, right? Does anybody really expect that number to be reduced anytime soon? We're obsessed with spending and living for today. We are driven by the survivalist thinking of keeping up with a society that wants the best of everything at every moment. And we as North Americans are statistically not focused on the big picture of what we truly need for today and tomorrow. In the 1990s, infinite banking concept founder R. Nelson Nash studied the spending habits of American families. He maintained a close watch on the income allocated to automobiles, housing, living, and saving. At the time of the publication of Becoming Your Own Banker, Nash addressed spending habits, saying that in relation to the proportion of income allocated to each category, this seems to be the current situation, which doesn't seem to change all that much. What Nash discovered still applies today. He built his infinite banking scenarios around the all-American family because he didn't want people to think that you have to be rich to create a banking system that can handle all of your financial needs. He determined that in the average American household, 20 cents of every dollar goes toward automobiles, the cost of the car, and the maintenance. 30 cents of every dollar goes toward housing. 40 cents of every dollar goes toward everything else in life, including travel, food, and charitable giving. Here you can see the chart. This chart is in the book. We're spending and giving away to others 90 cents on every dollar. Think about that. In September of 2019, the current average savings rate in North America was 8.3%. Our greatest financial struggles stem from focusing on working for our money instead of having our money work for us. Add in our propensity to spend far more than we save without maximizing the wealth building capacity of our spending, and that is how we've found ourselves where we are today. When financial advisors talk to you about your money, they are talking to you about what you are saving. And in order to save more, you believe that you have to take on more risk and have less of what you want and need for your business and your lifestyle. Now, the money multiplier method is different because we're going to focus on the money you are spending. If we can take some of the money that you are already spending and move or transfer into your savings, we've increased your savings rate. And we've done so without working any harder, without assuming additional risk, without losing control of your money, and without changing your cash flow. The money multiplier method of infinite banking is truly a unique financial machine because it allows you to manage and maximize your wealth as you live and spend as you typically do, versus halting your spending to save your money in a retirement vehicle where you have no access to your money for many years. While both can be used in tandem, it's important to distinguish the two. A retirement vehicle is not going to empower you to recapture all of the money you've spent on every car you've ever owned, ever. We are. I'll stop here for a second and also just kind of explain what this recapturing means. And we will go on to learn more about that. But when we place our money in a retirement vehicle, such as an IRA or a 401k plan or a SEP, Simplified Employee Pension for Self-Employed, or any place where we are looking at long-term results or money that is sitting in a government qualified account, which an IRA is, for example. What we're exchanging is the ability to have use of our money while we need it when we're alive living. And we're exchanging that for the ability to play a tax gamble game with the government. Because what has been thrown out there was, and still is, take advantage of tax deductibility today, okay, to make it appear as though you're getting some tremendous benefit because you're saving on some taxes today. But from my philosophy of doing this work for 35 years, I can assure you, taxes are always a problem, okay? And they will become a much more burdensome problem when you're 70 or 80 years old, because I've dealt with many, many families throughout my life who are still paying taxes, even though they had their 401k plan, because it blew up into $1 million and now all of it is taxable. Now, there's more compounding effects that are a detriment than just that. There's Social Security reduction based on income limits. So it goes on and on. So what we're looking at here is the recapturing of your money while you're alive to use to your advantage and to separate yourself from the philosophy of the government. So let's continue on. Before we get into the workings of this method, it's important to understand how money works, or uncover these illusions of retirement freedom and investigate the mysteries of the third-party banking functions that we've all become accustomed to. Everything we want to create in our business and personal lives begin with money. Renowned American businessman and author Zig Ziglar put it best when he said, "Money isn't everything, but it's reasonably close to oxygen on the gotta have it scale." The world is full of plans, gurus, and clutter that keeps us in the dark about our money. It doesn't help that we have been unintentionally misled to think that money is bad, or that we're too dumb to understand how to make, save, and spend it, or that we need to pay and trust someone else to do it for us. The whole conversation in this book is about money, how money works, what money does, and what you do with money, because what you don't know is hurting you. Global financial educator Robert Kiyosaki says the big shift must come in education, not only in what we teach, but how we teach. Let's talk about what money is and how it really works. Simply put, money is just a means of exchange for goods and services. In other words, we exchange money for food, food for money, money for cars, cars for money, money for houses, houses for money, money for vacations, and vacations for money. Tony Robbins says, at its core, money is about power. We've all seen how much or how money can have the power to create, the power to destroy. He goes on to say, one thing is for sure, you either use it or money, uses you. In his book, Second Chance for Your Money, Your Life, and Our World, Robert Kiyosaki says that measuring wealth in money will cause the rich to become the new poor. He points out several reasons. Because money is no longer money, because knowledge is the new money, and because the poor and middle class of today have the opportunity to become the new rich of tomorrow. Elaborating on his belief that money will cause the rich to become the new poor, Kiyosaki makes the bold statement that our wealth is stolen via our money. He points out 3 areas where money is disappearing. Number 1, taxes. The value of our labor is stolen through taxes. Number 2, inflation. Prices increase when the government prints money. And number 3, savings. As Kiyosaki says, savers are losers because banks steal savers' wealth via the fractional reserve system, a banking process, a form of printing money. If knowledge is the new money and execution is true power, This book is going to give you the power to reclaim control of your money, your income producing and wealth building power, so that you can live the lifestyle you want, have the retirement you want, and leave the legacy you want. 34 million baby boomers are currently in retirement. The remainder of the 70 million baby boomers are getting ready to retire. And almost half of Americans approaching retirement have little to nothing saved. When we do have something saved, however, we put our money away into retirement accounts. We give away our money and our power to those who are willing to handle these accounts for us. Now, the trouble is that we don't know if they've done a good job until maybe it's too late, like John, an airport employee who trusted the investment guy, all of his friends and neighbors that used him, only to lose all of his $400,000 in retirement fund. I will take a break here and just inject a real true to life story. I will leave the parties, individuals' names out. So I was holding a financial planning course study group for a group of real estate agents here in Delray Beach, Florida. I'll leave the brokerage out also. But I would hold monthly workshops, and then real estate agents, realtors would all be in our classroom, and I would be teaching about financial planning, money, investments, insurance, estate planning, taxation, and whatnot. And at the end of one of the sessions, a woman came over to me and she said, "Sal, I really, really want to sit down with you." And I said, "Absolutely, of course." She said, "I've heard things from you I've never heard before from anyone else. But I have so much to share with you that you need to come over to my home." So we set up an appointment, and I went to her home, met her and her husband, who's a retired physician, and on disability, collecting disability, and also collecting an income from various insurance policies that he had the foresight to put in place. So I gave tremendous commendation for his forward thinking and for the agent that made sure that he would have money if his income were to stop. And then she went on to tell me about this true to life story where in the country club in which they live, all $1 million plus homes, they all get around the pool and in clubhouse, and they share stories about, hey, what are you doing to make the next hit, right? The next pop, or the next flip, or profit, and so where are you? Who's handling your money? And so many of them had placed large amounts of their money in with an investment guy, right? Somebody who was referred to them that they were producing phenomenal rates of return by having them invest their money. And everything was good for a while. Everything was really good for a while. Till she told me that they lost, her and her husband, $2 million that they invested. That's right, $2 million. And guess where that money was? Have you ever heard of Bernie Madoff? Well, it was one of the trickle-down arms from his scheme. Wasn't him directly, but it was one of the legs of his scheme, right? Of that default system that he created. So it does happen. I have met many people, unfortunately too many people, and I've also seen money evaporate without doing anything wrong, by just following what Wall Street people tell you to do, which is invest your money in mutual funds and stocks and bonds. I recently met with an individual who saw me and said, "I need to see you about my IRA, Sal, one of these days." Well, when you're persistent enough and you stay in business long enough, things do come your way. So he did call me several years later, I think, and said, we have to do something. I just lost almost $600,000 of my money that I have in stock market accounts and brokerage accounts. and I need you to help me sort through this and make sure that we could stop the bleeding. And I trust you to do that. And so I did. And I also set up some accounts that he needed to make sure in the event of long-term care was required for him or his wife, that there would be guaranteed money there. You see, what we do need is guarantees. What do we really know about our retirement accounts? You likely know a few things, but you know if your money goes up or down, right? In your retirement account. When I say retirement account, it could be a mutual fund account, a stock bond, right? Wall Street driven. But in the case of what we're talking about here, we're talking about in a 401k plan or in an IRA that's managed by a financial advisor, and they're making trades on your behalf. But you also cannot predict the Dow Jones, NASDAQ. You cannot predict, just like in real estate, there is going to be cycles. And, knowing how to handle yourself through these cycles is psychologically what needs the best to be done for yourself. But other than knowing whether or not your money has gone down or gone up based on the last statements you get, you also may know whether your money is invested in a low, moderate, or high risk category, right? Other than that, most people don't know SHIT about what their money is doing. In his book, Money Master the Game, Tony Robbins states that polls show that fewer than 1 in 4 trust the financial system, and with good reason. Robert Kiyosaki says today millions of Americans, through their 401ks and IRAs, blindly turn their money over to people they do not know or trust. They follow the instructions of parrots, repeating what they have been told to say. That's a risky proposition. When you put your money into these government-sponsored accounts, you put all of your trust and all of your money into someone else's hands without any guarantee as to what will happen to your funds within the accounts. There is no protection of your funds if Wall Street sinks into the New York harbor, as R. Nelson Nash said. The most dangerous thing you can do with money is put it into government-sponsored schemes, he concluded. While his words may seem harsh, it is critical to consider both the risk you are taking in the markets and with your investment guy or gal, and how much you are actually earning within those accounts. Are you buying into an average return? And how does it compare to your actual return? Take, for instance, a man we'll call Robert Dolet. Robert was recommended to an investment advisor by his brother. Given that the advisor came highly recommended and dressed nicely and drove a nice car, Robert trusted him. When Robert was told that this advisor's clients earned an average of 25% return on their investments, he bought in. The trouble was that after 4 years, Robert realized a whopping return of 0%. Why? Because of the difference between average and actual returns. So here's a little diagram here for a math lesson. Okay. So if you have a starting investment of $100 in year one and it grows to $200 in year two, that is a 100% rate of return. In year two, starting with a $200 rate of amount that you've recently grown to from the first year, but you lose money and now you're at $100, that's a loss of 50%. You would think, well, how could it be a loss of 50% when I got my money back? But you're not factoring in the time value of money either. And these are just mathematical fact. So you could see it's a diagram just to show you basically what you need to do to recover when you have a loss. I'm not going to go through the formula, but the financial advisor was telling the truth. The average rate of return over 4 years was 25%. Okay, even though you could see doubling your money in 2 years. When Robert was invited out to a celebratory dinner sponsored by his advisor's office, the celebration was short-lived because he looked inside his account and saw that all he had was the money he had started with, less even the management fees and taxes. On top of that, his $100 in year 4 were weaker dollars. They were worth less than the 100 he started with in year 1. Can anyone tell us why? Why would you have weaker dollars if you still got your money back, basically? Well, it's really one or two words: inflation and taxes, right? Those two things will chew up the value of that $100. So it really doesn't have the buying power. We'll even throw a third one in here, and that's time. The equivalent of lost time chases away the opportunity cost that is there if that money were still with you. And so you're 1 year older. So that means there's actually 1 year less working in your favor in which that money can compound. So that's a third strike against you. All this is to say that it is critical to focus on your actual rate of return when considering where to put your money, which is what we do here at the Money Multiplier Method. If giving up control of your finances and being marketed unrealistic average return rates on your traditional investments isn't painful enough, when you invest in retirement accounts, you're also giving away your good dollars today in exchange for weaker dollars later, as I just said. When you put your money away in 401k and IRAs, you do so with the intention of getting your money later, years down the road. You have to lock your money away for years before you can use it. You cannot get to your money without paying penalties and taxes until you turn 59 and a half age. The reality is that if you are contributing to a 401k, an IRA, or another qualified plan, you might as well forget about your money since you can't touch it today or tomorrow. The saying, out of sight, out of mind, holds very true. Now, some might say, well, Sal, I can take a loan against my 401k. Yes, that is true. Some might say, well, I still can take a withdrawal from my IRA or my 401k. Yes, that is true. However, you do have to pay taxes as income. So if you took $20,000 out of an account, you just basically are adding $20,000 as income and paying taxable income rates based on the ordinary personal tax bracket, which is not good. In addition to that, as stated earlier, if you're not 59 and a half, you'll be hit with a 10% pre-withdrawal, early withdrawal penalty of 10% that's paid directly to the IRS. So the IRS has their hand in this, okay? You also give up the opportunity to use your money today, as I said earlier, while the value of the dollar is still strong. This means you are faced with the opportunity cost of not being able to put the money toward your house, your car, your business, or your lifestyle. Here's a critical question for you. Is a dollar worth more today or in the future? The answer is today. You can buy more candy bars 20 years ago for $1 than you can buy today, right? If you go to the grocery store today and buy milk, a steak, and a loaf of bread, would you wait 20 years to drink that milk and eat that steak or bread? Of course not. This is the source of our pain and struggle around money and what we've been taught to believe. When you put money in a government or employer-sponsored retirement plan, such as a 401k or an IRA or another qualified plan, what you're doing is buying a loaf of bread and putting it in the freezer. In, say, 20 years, you open the freezer and see 2 loaves of bread representing the growth of your money, 2 loaves. Is that second loaf of bread any good? No, it's still freezer burn. Tomorrow's dollars will never be worth as much as today's. So that's another critical point here that we're not really taught about. We're not taught that there's no better time to take action to use the money that you're earning today than today, in fact. Yet we've been taught to move our money in places where we don't have access to, or worse off, we've been taught that when we earn money, we should put it in someone else's bank. So the same holds true there. We'll get into that a little bit also. Robert Kiyosaki explains this by saying the opposite of saving is known as the velocity of money. Most people park their money where they save or invest for retirement. Smart people keep their money moving. Simply put, When you park your money loses value. When you keep your money moving, your money increases in value. That's a masterful secret. The second critical question is this: are taxes going to go up or down? I've been asking this question for 35 years when I sit with families, and they all say the same thing since 1988. They're going to go up. And for the very large majority, they do, unless your income goes way down, right? But taxes, like most everything else, go up. And even if they don't go up, you will be taxed on more goods of greater cost than you were in the past. Robert Kiyosaki says, inflation is good for debtors and bad for savers, which is why savers are losers. The third critical question is as follows: would you rather pay taxes on the seed or on the harvest? In other words, do you want to pay tax on the money you invest, the small amount, or the money you make, the large amount? Well, just think about it. If you have a large amount, you're going to be paying taxes on the large amount, right? So the answer is the small amount. When you invest in retirement plans, you are violating your own desires because you are being taxed on your harvest, the large future amount. And when you take your money out, taxation is going to occur on that money. The only thing you're avoiding by taking your money out at the proper age is the penalty. So if you're post 59 and a half, thank you, they'll take the 10% handcuffs off of you at that time. We've been taught to give away our good dollars today and get paid back with weaker dollars in the future. Just think about that. It's worth saying again. We've been taught to give away our good dollars today and get paid back with weaker dollars in the future. Kind of doesn't make sense. Why would anybody do that? The money multiplier method, which by the way is just a method, you can call it anything you really want, but it is totally contradictory to the conventional way of thinking about money. In other words, this infinite banking concept, becoming your own bank, is what this is really all about, where we are focusing on using our good dollars today and paying back others with weaker dollars in the future, which really does make a lot more sense, right? And as we mentioned earlier, we are going to focus on the money you are spending rather than solely the money you are saving. By having and being your own banking system versus relying solely on traditional investment methods, you no longer have to lock up your cash. You no longer have to turn over your control to someone else. You can continue to spend for your lifestyle and business, and you can realize growth guarantees from day one. R. Nelson Nash says there are only two sources of income: people at work and money at work. You can either continue to work hard and turn your hard-earned dollars over to someone else to control, or you can make the choice to think differently, become your own bank, and make your money work for you. It's time to choose to be in control of your money from the beginning, isn't it? And every day thereafter. Now, this method is built upon three foundational principles for your life and your money. Number one, pay yourself first. We think we know it, but it can be hard to do. It's easy to give away our money to the car people, the house people, the TV people, electricity, grocery people, school, investment guy. It's time to keep your money before giving it away. Pay yourself too. This is two, pay yourself with interest. Now, millionaires understand that there is a premium and privilege that is put on using their money. With the money multiplier method, you're going to learn to treat your money just as you would the bank's money. When you borrow money, you pay it back with interest, don't you? If money flows out of your banking systems, money should be put back in to replace it. And number three, recapture what you spend, which is just a first for so many people. And this is probably the most difficult part for me to try to educate people on. and I do this practically every day. Recapturing and recycling the money you spend is one of the most powerful processes you'll ever learn. You can get back all of the money you spend on cars, your home, and even your charitable giving and your taxes, all the while building your wealth and legacy. That's what this money multiplier method is about. So when I say you hear money multiplier method, just understand it's sort of framing the infinite banking concept in general, using it through the system of the money multiplier, Brent Kessler and Chris Noggle and myself. But it doesn't matter what those words mean. Fact is, you could still accomplish whatever it is that you need to do through velocity banking and infinite banking. So it does talk about taxes. How do you do that? How is it that you can get think about the pain we go through, especially self-employed people, right? Real estate professionals, insurance agents, other sole proprietors, and every year have to figure out how to part with their money today, putting it away for preparation of paying that tax at the end of the year next year, right? Most people fail to do that. Why? Because they need to eat off the land today. They need to use that money today. And they don't know what the future holds for them physically, emotionally, in any way. So there's this fear about paying your quarterly taxes, for example, because if you start, if you get a commission check of $10,000, the last thing you want to do is take 3,000 of it, right, and give it to the IRS all year long to hold, right? So, for these people, myself included, we need to find a solution to that. So what I'll say here, and I'll inject this and then continue, is that it is possible to pay your taxes and recover all that money. And let's compare what that means. If I had to pay $10,000 to the IRS, normally what a person would do is take $10,000 from an account that's sitting somewhere else and reduce that $10,000 to zero, right? If that's all there is in the bank account. But I'll feel great giving it to the government, right, for that relief. But I don't have $10,000 anymore. Now what? Now I'm on that treadmill again. I'm in the hamster wheel again, right? So the way to do that and correct that is by having control of your own bank and then paying your taxes from your bank, but paying yourself back as though you're a banker and make payments back to yourself into your own bank account. And we're going to go through that, but that is something that's been done for the last 250 years. This is not a new concept for everybody out there to hear. You should know that this has been done for a very long time. In order to become your own bank, to recycle and recapture the interest you're paying to everyone else and regain full control of your finances, we need to investigate the system itself, how banks really work, and what we can learn from them. So get ready to unlock the mysteries. Now that's going to take us to the next chapter, which is section 3, the mysteries. I am going to just I'll put my video back on here and just share with you a little more information. You should be able to see me, I think. Hold on one second for some reason. Yeah, okay. So here is this Becoming Your Own Banker book, Robert Nash, R. Nelson Nash, I'm sorry, 5th edition, as I said at the opening. And this is purchasable on Amazon, okay? And this is the author of the concept, but the concept itself has been around for 200 years. He just put it in book form. This is a book that I'm in the middle of reading now. You can see it. It's What Would the Rockefellers Do? This is written by Garrett Gunderson. That's right. And just Google him. Garrett Gunderson, and you'll see the thought leader he is. And but anyway, there is hundreds of publications on infinite banking. So usually at this time, if there's anybody that wants to write me or ask a question, now is a good time to do it. I'm happy to share my knowledge, experience, and help anybody along the way who has questions about any particulars or just any subject matter at all. I am both a financial advisor, planner, estate manager, or wealth accumulator, tax avoider. But I also am a real estate agent as well. Been a real estate agent for the last 12 years or so. And I've seen the trouble that most real estate agents get into in this area, especially not being in control and feeling, like, wow, how do I put all this together? But also the ineffective ability to save for themselves and use money effectively. So we're going to continue forward next week. I am going to change the time more toward noon, I think, on Friday rather than 10 a.m. There are people from early morning from California and 3 hours behind me who requested I do that. So I'm happy to see you here. This has been recorded. I will send it to you if you want, or you may see me post it. You can reach me 561-459-0222. Or if you're with EXP, you can find me on Workplace, Sal, Sophia, or whatever. But I wish you a great weekend. If you like and do not have a copy of this ebook, I will send it to you. Just reach out to me. And we hope to see you all again next week. Okay? Thank you very much.